Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Copewell podcast. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today I wanted to share a topic that came out of a conversation that I had with my daughter a few weeks ago. She was really struggling with finding something she liked about her appearance. And as a parent, this gutted me. But as a behavior therapist, I recognized that it was a negative self concept that had taken root. And it was filtering out the possibility of her seeing herself with compassion. So today I wanted to share what I discovered through that experience and how to move past a negative self concept, not through forced positivity or empty affirmations, but through gentle evidence based approaches that I've found can be really effective. So, like I shared, my daughter was struggling with some negativity a few weeks ago, and she was just really struggling to find something she could accept or that she liked about her appearance. And in that moment, I did not tell her she was beautiful. I didn't list all of her wonderful qualities. I didn't try to convince her that her thinking was wrong because when someone has a perception that's negative, contradicting them doesn't help. And in fact, it can often backfire. Your brain can build a fortress around your negative view because your perception is your truth. And when we challenge negativity head on, often the person just defends it harder. So it's like trying to force a door open that's locked from the inside, and you really need to approach it from a different angle. You need to find a window. A negative self concept isn't just about like low self esteem, it's really more of a belief system about who we are. And so it's the lens through which we interpret our experiences, our relationships, people's responses to us, our successes or failures, because our brain wants to confirm our beliefs. So if we believe something about ourselves, we unconsciously filter our reality to confirm whatever it is we believe. So if we believe we're unattractive, our brain is going to dismiss compliments as lies, and it's going to magnify our perceived flaws. So a negative self concept isn't something you can just think your way out because it's more than just dealing with your thoughts. You're kind of attacking your whole belief system here. So, in that moment with my daughter, I validated what she was experiencing. And I said, I hear you. I know it can be a real struggle. I feel like we all kind of struggle with a negative self concept sometimes. So, I just wanted her to feel seen. I wasn't going to force anything. And I decided to start with something neutral. So, I said, is there anything that you can accept about yourself? Maybe it's not something you love, but do you just like about yourself or you think is just okay? And so she was able to build from there. I felt like that acceptance was kind of the way in, our foothold through the door, or, that open window. Acceptance was like a bridge between the negative and the positive. It was like a middle ground where acceptance can be where we're not asking the brain to make a giant leap from extremes like I hate everything about myself or I love everything about myself. I'm great. It's just asking what can you acknowledge as neutral without judgment, right? Judgment is when we label something as good or bad. And we don't have to start with a physical quality. I feel like that's probably pretty difficult for a lot of people. So start with a quality that you like about yourself. Maybe it's you're a kind friend, or you're really organized, or you're great with animals. That's my daughter, not the organization part, but she's a great big sister. She makes people laugh. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's about finding something that doesn't trigger the defense system. It's a quality we can sit with without kind of triggering that inner critic, if that makes sense. So once you find something with acceptance, you can begin to explore from there. So You don't necessarily have to praise or like cheerlead, but just notice. And I was able to kind of reflect back what was already there for her, what was already true. And this began to shift something. And once she could accept one thing, like I said, that door was open. And I was able to realize that there's a concept that I teach in my coaching called positive projections. And this is like a mirror effect. Usually we're talking about it in negative terms, like how we project our insecurities onto other people. But projection actually works both ways. We cannot recognize in others what we don't already hold within ourselves somewhere. So if you genuinely see kindness in someone, you have to have that kindness within you first to be able to recognize it and experience it. If you notice someone is being creative, you have a creative ability. Uh, it means you understand it. So it has to live within you. And we see in others what we know is within us. We're projecting that outward. And this can help break the negative pattern. And this is what I was experiencing in that conversation following acceptance and validation with my daughter. So when you start looking for things to compliment in others, because it's easier to compliment other people than sometimes it is to compliment ourselves, you can start seeing positive qualities in your reality. So if we practice noticing positive qualities in others, we're activating neural pathways associated with self-compassion and appreciation, and we're training our brains to look for that good. So there is positivity there. Sometimes it's just easier to see outside of ourselves when we can't accept something within us, if there's something we don't like about ourselves. So that's another huge key. And over time, your brain can begin to generalize like, if I see good in others, maybe there's good in me too. I can see this positive quality within me too. So here's what you can try, whether it's for yourself or someone you love that's maybe struggling with a negative self concept. First, find one thing you can accept about yourself, not necessarily like love or celebrate, but just acknowledge it without judgment. And then sit with that acceptance. Let it exist without needing like to be defended, just noticing where it shows up. And then the third piece is look for what you love in other people, even if it's not a direct compliment. Genuine observations. What do you love in your reality that is maybe a reflection of yourself? What qualities do you tend to recognize in others? And every time we practice acceptance instead of a forced positivity, every time we recognize something that's good in others and acknowledge that that recognition comes from within us, you're creating new possibilities for yourself. And so our self-concept shapes how we show up in the world, in our relationships, in opportunities, how we handle the future, and what we believe of ourselves, right? We talked about it being a belief system. So when we're trapped in a negative self-concept, we're really missing out on our own potential. But when we learn to see ourselves with even a fraction of compassion, of the compassion that we show for others, when we recognize that the good we see in the world is a reflection of the good within us, that's freedom. That's where our negative self-concept can begin to shift. So if you would like to embody this practice and begin to try it on, if you're struggling with a negative self-concept, first, try to find one thing that you accept about yourself, and then start looking for the good in others, knowing that every time you see it, you're actually seeing a piece of a reflection of yourself, because you are not your thoughts. Okay, you're not that harsh critic in your head. You are someone who can recognize kindness and creativity and courage and beauty and good in others. So that's how to shift out of or just move through a negative self-concept and begin to build more good and put more good into the world, which is my whole purpose with this. So thank you for being here. Share this with someone who you think may need to hear it. And if you have positive thoughts about this episode that you'd like to share, I'd love to support you in reflecting that good from within you. So I hope to hear from you soon. Cope well.